Hello lovely people. In this video we'll be talking about an upfront bass, how to get it and what it is. So probably you heard the saying that I want my bass to be on the front, on top of the dash, in front, and that kind of stuff. So what that means is that when we listen to the whole system, we don't have the bass coming from the back, but we feel that the bass is coming from the front, from the top of the dash. Now, what it is and why do we hear that? First of all, we need to kind of understand what is an actual bass. What is a bass note? What is a bass guitar, a drum? What kind of frequencies does it play? Every instrument in nature has a fundamental frequency and it has harmonics that go after the fundamental frequency. Now, those harmonics is the thing that makes that instrument sound as it sounds. Like the same note, if you take, 200 hertz notes and you would play with different instruments, all of them are going to sound totally different. It doesn't matter if the note is the same 200 frequency, the fundamental one. What the difference is the actual harmonics that every instrument has. Now, if we have a look at a typical RTA of a musical instrument, so what I did is I downloaded some samples of bass, kick drum, and tom, and with Audacity I made a spectral just for you to show how it looks like on a graph. So for example, this is a bass note. I don't know what, probably it's like a synthetic bass, I'm not sure, but it's a bass note at 60 hertz. You can see, but it's not one single peak at 60 hertz. It has a lot of information and all the other frequencies. However, these fall down quite rapidly. So this is just a typical bass note. If I'm going to show you the next one, this is a kick drum, some sort of a kick drum. I don't know what kind of a kick drum. However, we have the fundamental note, which is somewhere here, and we have higher frequency harmonics that make the actual kick. Now, if we would chop off all of this one, this would not sound as a kick, but it would sound just like like a bump of a sine tone. It wouldn't sound natural because we wouldn't have any of these higher harmonics. Now, this is another kick, which has a much higher fundamental and a lot more harmonics at the very, very top end. So this is, you can see 6, 7, 8 kilohertz. And yes, the level is much lower. However, they're still there. And this is what makes the sound, the instrument sound natural. This is, for example, a tom, which has, you can see, a lot of high frequency information. Now, if we would chop off all of this, it wouldn't sound as a tom, it wouldn't sound as a hit, it would sound unnatural. So now we know that any kind of a note, even if it's a bass note, it's not in only the lower frequencies, but it's in higher frequencies as well. Now, if we would have a look at our DSP, this is just a crossover just to visualize for you. And we can see that we have different ranges of frequencies played by different drivers. So the top end is covered by tweeters, mid-ranges, mid-bass, and subwoofers vary in the back. However, the distance to the listening position is different from all of these speakers. We do time align them in order for the sound for all the speakers to come to our ears at the same time. Now, it is extremely important for the subwoofer to be aligned with the front end because our hearing works in a way that psychoacoustically humans can tell the direction of a sound, which is left, right, front, back, from the high frequency content, which is here. All the frequencies that I want to say like below 100, below 80 hertz, they are omnidirectional. That means that we cannot tell where they're coming from. So if I would play like a 50 hertz sine tone sitting here in the car, I cannot say where is it coming from, and it comes like from all over the place. Now, if I play a higher sine tone, like 3 kilohertz or whatever, I can specifically point where is it coming from. That's why the imaging is coming from your high frequency drivers, and the sub bass, even if it's in the very back, we can still perceive it as it's coming from the front. Because if we have, let's say, this kick, the main note, like 60 hertz, is coming from the back, However, all of these that comprises the actual kick are coming from these speakers. So if we sense the direction where it's coming from this frequency content, and the subwoofer is not time aligned with the front, that means that, like, if I'm gonna split this frequency range, we hear this and then we hear this as two separate things, and then the sound becomes not natural and it doesn't sound good. It might be a little bit echoey or like whatever, and basically you're not gonna have the subwoofer coming from the front when the sub is not aligned with the front. So what we need to do, we need to time align the subwoofer with the front, and then it's gonna be on top of the dash. And this is pretty simple. Like, to be honest, upfront subwoofer, a lot of people think that I need a front subwoofer, I need my mid bass in the doors to play down to 50 hertz, and only then I will have the bass on top of the dash. No, you can have the bass on top of the dash even if your mid bass is crossed at 100 hertz, even if your subwoofer is playing up to like 90 or whatever, it's still gonna be on top of the dash if you time align it correctly. Now, why the sub sounds that is coming from the back is the rattles. Is the rattles and buzzing and everything, all the upper harmonics that are not supposed to be with the bass note, those that are coming from the back, that pulls your attention to it. If you don't have any rattles and you play like 50 or 40 hertz note, you're not gonna know where the subwoofer is coming from. If you can hear that the subwoofer is coming, if you play 40 hertz and you can hear the subwoofer in the back, that means you have something resonating, rattling, that attracts your attention, those higher frequencies. If you have nothing, if everything is sound deadened properly, if you have no other harmonics coming from the back, you won't be able to tell that that 40 hertz is coming from the back. Now, how to time align subwoofer to the front in a very easy way without measuring phase or that kind of stuff? We can do that with RTA. So for this purpose, I have a microphone which is connected to the interface, but for this, you can use an USB microphone as well. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna play some pink noise, and we're going to try to align it in REW using a method which is called acoustical nulling. So probably you know that if two drivers are out of phase with each other, in RTA we're going to have a massive dip. If they are in phase, they will sum very nicely. So the principle of this is to measure mid-bass drivers, to measure subwoofer separately, and then together, and see how they sum. And we're going to be looking at RTA, how do they sum. We will be adjusting the time alignment to see if the summing is better or worse. Now, it is a bit difficult to see when the drivers are sum very nice, but it's very easy to see when they sum bad. You will have a massive hole in the response. So this is, as I mentioned, you can use a USB microphone, UMIC or whatever, is exactly the same. You can use it stationary, you don't have to move it, because for those low frequencies it doesn't matter. But now we're going to jump into the laptop and I'm going to show you how to actually do that. Okay, so I have this here. Now what we're going to do, we're going to measure first just the left woofer and the subwoofer separately, and then we're going to measure them together and see how they sum. So let me do that very quickly because I cannot talk over measurement. That's the woofer. Now let's do the subwoofer. Okay, and now let's play them together. Capture the sum. There we go. So let me remove this very quickly. I'm gonna name this left bass, subwoofer, and summing. So we can see here that they're summing quite nice in the crossover region, which is here, but we have something happening here. And what we want is, the maximum summation here at the crossover region. So we should have +6 decibels, and we're getting only +4. So they do sum, they're kinda in time, but not perfectly. Now, what we're going to do is, I'm going to flip the polarity of the subwoofer. You can flip the polarity of the mid-bass, it doesn't matter, but I'm going to flip the polarity of the subwoofer. We're going to go to the delay, and channel number 5, which is my mid-bass here, I'm going to start adding the delay while looking at the RTA, and we will be looking for the biggest cancellation possible. So let me enable both of these drivers, this and this. And here we can see, yeah, I can talk. Here we can see that they sum like this. Now I need a bigger cancellation. Let's add 1 millisecond. See, it's worse because it kind of removed this one. Let's add 2. There we go. We can see a hole happening here. Let's add 3. See, now they're canceling each other all together. Let's remove this one. Now it's cancellation, a full cancellation. Let's add 4. Now it's going back. So let's go back to 3. So with this delay, we have, let's capture, let's mute. There we go. So if I'm going to return this one, that means that with this delay of 3 milliseconds, we have the biggest cancellation that we can. Now, if I'm going to flip the polarity of the subwoofer back into place, and we're going to measure them again. Capture, let's mute, and we have this result, which is in the blue line. So these two are the responses of the subwoofer with the mid bass totally out of phase, and this when they sum when they're in phase. Now, if we compare this one with the previous one, we can see that by doing the time alignment, we gained another probably like 2.5 decibels of level, and we have less cancellation here. So now with the new time alignment, we have sub L bass, and we have this pretty much 6 decibels of summing, which is kind of ideal. And this is how we know that our subwoofer is in phase and in time with the mid bass driver. So this is pretty much the acoustical nulling, how you can put your subwoofer in time. Use RTA, flip the polarity of one of the drivers, add delay to the next one until you get the biggest cancellation possible, and then you flip it back. And then you have a nice sum. And you can do a very similar thing with just playing sine tones. So if you have a crossover frequency of like 70 hertz or whatever, or 60 or 80, play the sine tone with the polarity inverse, adjust the time alignment until you can hear the sine tone at its lowest volume. So basically you're gonna have a full cancellation, and then just flip it back, and it's going to be in time and in phase. So yeah, this is pretty much it. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I will see you in the next one.